Nintendo is hiding something from us. At this point, they've shown every champion descendant in the trailers. All but Teba and Yunobo, although we have seen Teba's son. But for Yunobo, we haven't seen the likes of him anywhere besides a small shot of the boulder breaker. Is he dead? Or maybe Ganondorf brainwashed him? Or he could just be hiding away in a cave again. We'll be exploring all of that today, starting right now. First, let's see where Yunobo may actually be hiding in the trailer. In the now famous shot of the champion descendants running, we can see Riju, Sidon, Tulin, who is likely the new fill-in for Teba, but not Yunobo. If we take another look, we can actually see the boulder breaker, which was the weapon wielded by the great Daruk prior to the Calamity. This is incredibly interesting because Nintendo's been very deliberate with what they show, and the fact that they're hiding Yunobo or whoever is wielding the boulder breaker tells a whole lot more than you might think. One aspect of the new overworld that's been constant since the first official trailer is the flow of malice coming from Death Mountain. Malice is the mark of Ganon. It's been shown attacking Link and is likely the cause of the Master Sword's destruction. Malice has also been used to poison creatures like Nadra and some of the cursed style enemies. But with all of that, what could it possibly mean for the people surrounding the area of Death Mountain? We've seen Malice on a small scale in Breath of the Wild, but in this game, and especially around Death Mountain, it really shows how powerful Ganon's influence on Hyrule is. So our first possible explanation for the disappearance of Yunobo is that he's been killed or poisoned by the malice of Death Mountain. I don't necessarily believe they would kill him off though, and again, we see the boulder breaker, but it's possible. The poison option could either mean that he's been debilitated like Nadra, or possibly even a more drastic outcome. But before we get too dark, we could humor the possibility that he trapped himself in another cave. If we recall back to Breath of the Wild, when we had to locate Yunobo for the Vah Rudania quest, he managed to trap himself in a small cave trying to deliver painkillers to the boss of Goron City, Bluto. Once Yunobo is freed, you're able to join with him to weaken Vah Rudania, to then board it. After you successfully defeat Fireblade Ganon, you see Yunobo and he exclaims how he feels much braver now. Going on to Age of Calamity, although likely not canon, we see Yunobo interact with Daruk. And during these interactions, Yunobo gains a new sense of strength and bravery he never had prior. All this leads to Yunobo likely still being his goofy self, but with a much braver demeanor than he had in Breath of the Wild. So let's find out why he's most likely evil in Tears of the Kingdom. When we look back at the final trailer, there's a shot in a cave with a boulder flying at Link with two figures in the background. I feel we could all agree that these two figures are likely Gorons or Goron children, but for the rolling boulder, it's debated what it might be. If we look at the colors on it, I believe we are seeing a Goron in some type of armor, and if that's the case, it introduces more questions. Why is a Goron rolling like this? Or why is a Goron attacking Link in the first place? Well, let's start by answering the former. If we look at the roll, we can see it first moving slowly, gaining momentum, then it bolts off with a blaze circling it. Now, throughout the history of Zelda, where have we seen something like this? Well, of course, in Majora's Mask, where you can wear Goron's mask, where it grants the ability to roll into a boulder and slowly gain momentum, then lunge forward with a blaze. If this happens to be the case, this would be incredibly fun, because it's always great to see prior mechanics reintroduced or referenced. Now, why are they charging at us? Well, it all comes back to the malice and my greater theory about what's happening with all the races in Hyrule in this game. Here's my theory. When Death Mountain started spewing malice, it also affected the Gorons, causing them to be infiltrated with hatred and violence, willing to serve Ganon at all costs. The Gorons left outside Death Mountain were forced to see their brothers turned against one another, and against the people of Hyrule. And even the great champion descendant and lovable goofball Yunobo was turned to hatred. Slowly, one by one, each were freed from the grasp of Ganon, but Yunobo was different. He was grasped on tightly. If he was freed, it would bring back hope to the Goron brethren. But eventually, after a grueling temple hidden in the depths of Death Mountain, and after a heartbreaking boss fight between Link and the mind-controlled Yunobo, he and the rest of the Gorons were freed. And now, the armies of Hyrule and its new champion can charge on to destroy Ganondorf, once and for all eternity. That's how I hope to see the Gorons at least. I feel a boss battle with Yunobo could be the exact kind of thing this game needs to tug at our heartstrings. If you agree or even disagree, please be sure to tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this series, then I have to recommend for you to subscribe and hit the bell to enable notifications, because I have a sinister theory about the Gerudo race I hope to have out by next week. And until then, always get 8 hours of sleep and keep cool.